Well, a happy Sunday evening, everybody. Welcome aboard Syracuse basketball, usually post-game, but just a Syracuse basketball discussion tonight presented by Krause Health. That breeze you felt was the collective exhale of Syracuse basketball fans everywhere because they are in. Syracuse has made the 2021 NCAA Tournament field. They are an 11 seed. They will face the 6 seed San Diego State on Friday in Indianapolis. Now, as Mike Curtis joins me here, hello, Michael. Happy Selection Sunday to you.
How you doing, man? Happy
Doing
Selection.
Great. Ready to cover a team in the dance. Always better than covering a team in the NIT. That's for sure, right?
Man, I'm sure Syracuse fans all over the world are just excited and jumping for joy. The fact that they got to kind of avoid that play-in round is crazy. I wasn't expecting that at all.
That's a big thing with this. So as Mike and I speak here, we don't know what time Syracuse plays. We're not exactly sure where they're going to play. We know the entire tournament is taking place in and around Indianapolis. So the selection committee, as Mike and I speak here live, are still determining that. But we're just kind of reacting to Syracuse getting in the tournament. And Mike, it was nervous times, but it's also a story of a remarkable turnaround for this team because 2 weeks ago, no way. I had no thought of this team making the NCAA tournament short of just a really deep run in the ACC tournament, and then maybe. But they just kept chipping away, kept winning games, won some big games. Seth Davis on the CBS selection show said that win over North Carolina was a big win for Syracuse. They beat Clemson to end the regular season, and then they go into the ACC tournament. They look really impressive against North Carolina State and a buzzer beater against Virginia. So had to wait a few days, and you looked around, and the bracketologist had Syracuse somewhere in kind of that last four in category, maybe one of the last four buys. But I was convinced Syracuse was going to be in the first four. And remember, there's no Dayton this year. Everything is in Indianapolis. But for the Orange to get in safely as an 11 seed tells you a lot about how this team played down the stretch, tells you a lot about how the committee and college basketball experts took a second look at Syracuse, because the one thing I thought that could hold them back, Mike, was the dreaded quad record, right? Syracuse, I think, finished 1-7 in quad one, and that might not have been good enough to get in. And they had a pretty similar resume to Louisville, and Louisville did not make the field, by the way.
Yeah, it's really interesting when you think about it. Like, this is a team that went through a couple of shutdowns due to the coronavirus. Didn't get off to as good as a start as they wanted. But somewhere down the stretch, they found a way to put it together. Buddy Boeheim, I think he's pretty much the spark and the engine that makes this team go. And over the last, I believe, 9 games, I think he's averaging over 22 points. And it's really remarkable when you think about where this team was, like you said, 2 weeks ago to where they are now. And they have a chance to go in and make a good tournament run because they're playing their best basketball of the season. They're shooting well. They're defending well. They're getting that zone. It's really forcing teams to have trouble. And I think it'll be pretty interesting going forward.
So we'll look at the bracket here in a little bit, and college basketball fans everywhere are doing that now, trying to figure out where the upsets are and how they can win. This is the year you're going to win the office pool. I can feel it, right? So you look at Syracuse, 2016, they barely get in the tournament. They make a Final Four run. 2018, they're literally the last team in. They have to go to Dayton in the first four and make a run to the Sweet 16. In 2019, Syracuse lost in the first round to Baylor. Baylor hitting 16 three-pointers in that game. And by the way, Baylor, now the number 2 overall seed, shows you where they've progressed since they beat Syracuse a couple years back. What do we know about San Diego State? I can honestly tell you I didn't watch 1 minute of San Diego State basketball this year, so I'm going to enjoy getting to know San Diego State as we go here, Mike. But here's what we know. They're pretty darn good for a 6 seed. 23-4 this year, 14-3 in the Mountain West. They won the Mountain West tournament. Top 25 team in Ken Pom, top 15 defensive team, top 20 in experience. Always important when you go to the tournament. This team has not lost a game since mid-January. They have won 14 straight coming into March Madness, and they have won 53 of 59 games over the past 2 seasons. So they've been in the rankings. They're number 19 in the country right now, as a matter of fact, coming in and experienced. They can shoot 37% from 3-point range. And Syracuse fans may remember, I'm pretty sure this is the last time Syracuse played San Diego State. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but you'll recall, boy, I can't believe this was almost 10 years ago. In 2012, when Syracuse played on the USS Midway aircraft carrier, they played San Diego State to open the season and won that game a while back. I've got the recap from that game. CJ Fair with 17 points and 10 rebounds. Michael Carter-Williams scored 17 points in that game. And remember, that was a season that ended in the Final Four for Syracuse, the 2012-13 season for the Orange. So, Mike, the Aztecs look like a pretty formidable first-round opponent here for Syracuse. If the Orange beat San Diego State, likely West Virginia awaits in the next round, but it's March Madness. You got to put everybody on the table. They would face the winner of the 3-seed West Virginia and the 14-seed Morehead State.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I'm looking at the numbers right here, and these teams have only played each other twice since 2007. And both games resulted in double-digit wins for the Orange. So I'm not sure like how the zone affects San Diego State. But it's gonna be something to watch, and I think Orange fans are gonna be really excited for this one, because if they do advance, like you said, they get either West Virginia, likely West Virginia. I think West Virginia will come out on top in that one. But man, you just gotta like the Orange's chances, especially being doubted. I think that was one thing that Coach Boeheim and the players, like, they've been doubted and counted out all this season. So now they're kind of playing with a chip on their shoulder going into the tourney.
Jim Boeheim just wrapping up a press conference, by the way, reacting to the tournament win, said he was proud of the way his team recovered, because early in the season, remember, Mike, and to everybody watching, we're going to react to your comments here shortly, but, first game of the year, Bryant, that came down to the end. Syracuse had to go to overtime to beat Buffalo. They had a couple close calls there in non-conference play. Pittsburgh beat them twice, and there was a stretch there where they didn't look like a tournament team. Pittsburgh beat them twice, as a matter of fact. There was a 28-day pause. Or I'm sorry, that was the women's team, but Syracuse had a pretty long pause. First, Buddy Boeheim had to go into protocol because he came in contact with a walk-on who tested positive for COVID-19, and the entire team had to go into a pause for a while there. So that kind of affected things. And Mike, just the fact that we're sitting here talking about Selection Sunday and talking about the tournament, because it was about a year ago, of course, when it all got taken away and when the sports world shut down. We will take it, and we will take this team being in. So what's weird about this, Mike, is South, West, East, Midwest, it doesn't even matter this year because the whole tournament is in Indianapolis. But just to give you a perspective on Syracuse's region, they're in the Midwest. Illinois is the number 1 seed. They're going to take on the 16 seed Drexel. The 8 seed Loyola Chicago takes on the 9 seed Georgia Tech. I mean, think about that.
They're playing really well.
Is a 9 seed, Mike.
Yeah, it's interesting the way the NCAA selection committee kind of seeded the ACC. 7 teams made it. Obviously, Louisville was the odd team out, but the respect or lack of respect that Georgia Tech got, it's definitely interesting, considering the fact that they won the ACC tournament. Maybe not how everyone envisioned they would, because they got that automatic entry into the championship game because of Virginia. But definitely it's interesting to see that they're 9 seed.
Should Illinois win that game, as you would imagine, they're going to get a tough matchup from either Loyola Chicago or Georgia Tech in the next round. Then you got the 5th seed Tennessee against the 12 seed Oregon State. Oregon State was a bid stealer, won the Pac-12 championship. Their coach, by the way, Stevie Thompson, and his son, Stevie Thompson, Syracuse connections there. So who knows? Maybe they'll end up meeting down the road here. So then that gets us down the bracket a little bit more. Oklahoma State is the 4 seed to take on the 13 seed Liberty. This is where Syracuse is. 6 seed San Diego State against the 11 seed Syracuse, the 3 seed West Virginia, the 14 seed Morehead State. 7th seeded Clemson, there's an ACC team looming in the bracket, against the 10 seed Rutgers. And then the 2 seed Houston takes on the 15 seed Cleveland State. So that's what the Midwest region looks like that Syracuse will be playing in. And Syracuse fans already, Mike, I'm sure, saying, ooh, that looks good. That's a good path for Syracuse to make a run here to who knows? Who knows with this bracket? You brought up a great point. How does San Diego State react to the zone? It's not a team they've crossed paths with for a while, because when Baylor came up as the bid a couple years ago, you could tell right away. It's like, okay, they play some 2-3 zone. They can shoot threes, up-and-coming team. San Diego State, what they've got going for them is they can score, three-point shooting, experience is key, and they just won a heck of a lot of games in the past couple of seasons here. So not going to be easy, but Mike, I am fascinated by the neutralizer in this whole thing, right? So typically – this game would probably be somewhere that would favor San Diego State, right? It would be in the West region, probably in like Salt Lake City or something, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't matter this year. Everybody's in the same place, so it's just straight up matchups.
Yeah, you got to go out and play. It doesn't matter where you're located. Everyone's in the same city. Half the teams will be gone by the end of the first weekend. If Syracuse wants to be one of those teams, they have to play with absolutely everything they have. I know they're dealing with a couple injuries. I know Kadari's dealing with that knee problem. Marek has that finger issue, right? I think that they'll have to give their all, regardless of how they're feeling physically, in order to.
As soon as San Diego State pulls up that film, they're going to see Buddy Boeheim going on just an absolute tear. The last 7 games, not just the ACC tournament. You mentioned, Mike, he made the all-ACC tournament team. The last 7 games, Buddy's been on a tear, averaging about 22 points per game, hot from three-point range. So that's the first thing they got to look at. How is Kadari? Can he contribute? Struggled in the ACC tournament with that knee injury. What do you get from the rest of your backcourt in terms of Joe Girard? He was up and down a little bit as of late. Quincy Guerrier inside. Marek Dolezaj, you mentioned, is battling that finger issue right now. How about Robert Braswell and his contributions off the bench? Can you kind of sneak in there and kind of sneak attack some people with a couple guys off the bench? Jesse Edwards as well. I haven't seen San Diego State, but just a quick glance at their roster, I do think Syracuse is going to have an advantage there. It seems like they've got a bigger roster than San Diego State. So, Mike, it's all about matchups in March Madness, and Syracuse has to find the right matchups here and what is looking like a Friday matchup against the Aztecs.
Yeah, one stat I'll be looking for specifically is none other than the rebounding battle. Typically, when Syracuse won the rebounding battle, they won the game in the regular season. So since they have the height advantage, we'll see if it gets backed up on the boards.
14-0 this season when they out-rebound their opponent, a key number going into the tournament. So let's react to a lot of your comments. Thanks for checking in. See a lot of our regulars here from the post-game show. Everybody just a lot of emojis and happy and orange emojis and a lot of flexing out there. My man Dustin checking in from Kentucky says, as an Orange fan, really happy, but living here in Kentucky, the fans are not happy that Louisville is out. You know, Dustin, someone had to be out, right? There was a list of about 6 or 7 teams: Syracuse, UCLA, Duke, Utah State, Colorado State, and only I think 3 or 4 spots for that list.
Yeah.
What do you think, Mike? Why do you think the committee, and ultimately the committee chair will explain it, but what do you think burned Louisville not getting in the tournament?
I'm not sure. When you look at it, their resume with Syracuse is pretty similar. I know Syracuse got hot over this past stretch, and I'm really not sure. That's a good question. Yeah, I know Josh Pastner from Georgia Tech. He said that pretty much 10 or 11 ACC should make the tournament, but only 7 got in, and Louisville was the odd team out. So I'm not sure. I
like this comment from Michael here. It says, let's prove Seth Davis wrong. Syracuse has done that a number of times in recent years. I remember our friend Seth thought that Montana was going to beat Syracuse a couple of years back in the tournament, and Syracuse just cremated Montana in that game. And as a result, he's a good man, Seth Davis. He made a bet with our friends at TK99 Radio, and on the CBS set had to wear an orange wig, had a banner, and had to play it up. So a bet paid off there. Maybe we can get him to do it again this year for Syracuse as well. James says, like I said, we were playing 6 players and struggling to play the bench. Can't be any worse than that. Robert noting, as soon as we got in, we got slammed by the so-called experts. I hope Coach saw that. Oh, Coach saw that. I can guarantee you that will be put in front of him one way or the other. That's for sure. Dustin adding into this, Mike, saying the experts always dog us. Now, speaking of which, Mike is working on a post right now that you'll see up tonight on syracuse.com. Give us a little sneak preview of what you see in experts and people out there and the reaction to Syracuse getting in? Is it in line with what our commenters are noting here?
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be on syracuse.com tonight. It's going to be called What They're Saying About Syracuse's number 11 seed and matchup. It's really interesting. Chris Vanini, he said that questionable Syracuse bracket position means a Final Four run is coming.
That's right. That's exactly how that's going to go, right?
That's hilarious. Dana O'Neill, one of our friends at the Athletic, she said Michigan State and UCLA in the first 4 game and Syracuse isn't. Say what?
That is interesting. That's a heck of a first 4 game, by the way. Michigan State, UCLA. Oh, is whoever gets that game. I think Turner has those games early on. They're going to love that. 2 blue bloods in the first 4. But yeah, that is a little strange. Yeah. I have to agree with her on that.
You got Joe Girard chiming in. He said, "Mama, I'm going dancing." Cuse in March with the eye emojis. Let's see. Mike Waters, our friend, our colleague, he said, "Can Syracuse and San Diego State play on the deck of an aircraft carrier for old time's sake?"
There you go. We were talking about that a little earlier here in the show.
Yeah, so those are just a couple of tweets that I saw floating around out there.
So, sir, we've got Michelle and Thomas and a few commenters here saying Final Four for the Orange here. Just absorbing it, just looking at the bracket. I don't think Sweet 16 is out of the realm of possibility if this team can fire up the engines like they did down the stretch and in the ACC tournament. Because the key things are, Mike, you brought it up, when they win the rebounding battle, they typically win. They're shooting the ball a lot better from 3-point range, but the key is always defense. Now, Jim Boeheim said at his post-game press conference, there were some things in the Virginia game that he didn't like. He saw a little regression defensively. My answer to that is that's Virginia. Virginia's good, and Virginia's going to make a lot of defenses look bad. Syracuse still played one of their best games of the season, even in a buzzer-beating loss. So that's always the key to those Final Four runs referenced earlier. When Syracuse makes a postseason run, it's typically because that zone is on point. And what we saw at the end of the year, Mike, was guys like Robert Braswell coming in, who knows that zone better than anybody. Defensive lockdowns for this team, even up top. Buddy was getting a lot better on the defensive end. Alan Griffin struggled down the stretch offensively. That's a guy that's really got to turn it around on the offensive end, but always seems to make up for it on the defensive end. There's times, though, when he kind of gets lost in the shuffle in the zone, but he led this team in blocks and always seems to make a big play there. So it all comes down to defense with Syracuse. But the way that they clicked offensively, and particularly Buddy Boeheim, look, this team could go on a run and really beat anybody in this bracket that they're playing. I'd love to see them play West Virginia again for old time's sake, an old Big East rival. Bob Huggins still there, and West Virginia had a great run in the Big 12 this year. So Sweet 16 is certainly possible. I don't know if I'm going to predict it at this point. I'm kind of a nerd with this stuff, Mike. I don't hand in my bracket until the last second. I like to just sit and absorb everything all week, and then I hand in the bracket. It's been a good strategy for me, so I'm going to be that guy. I don't have any predictions quite yet. What, you got an early read on a feel of how far Syracuse can go?
Man. Do I have to be the bad guy here?
Well, please do.
I think Syracuse will win this first matchup against San Diego State. But I think if West Virginia makes it to the next round, I think Syracuse gets bounced in the second round.
It's possible. These are 2 good teams they're up against here, and sometimes that seed line can be deceiving. I think San Diego State easily could have been a 4, could have been higher. With that record, Mountain West actually had a few teams in contention for the tournament this year. It's not like a scrub 1-team league that's coming in here. So I wouldn't be surprised if Syracuse lost that game just because San Diego State's experience, they can score, and is a team that's just been around the block a few times in recent years. Wouldn't stun me if Syracuse, outscored them in a high-scoring back-and-forth game. West Virginia might be a little tougher, but look, having seen what Syracuse has done in the past few years, when they make the tournament, it usually pays out. It's usually a benefit to the selection committee for doing that. By the way, shout out to Colgate while we're here on the show, Mike. Colgate gets in as a 14 seed, won the Patriot League again. That's a really experienced team that's got a lot of guys back from when they made the tournament a couple years ago, and they're playing Arkansas in the first round. I will tell you this, no matter who wins that 3-14 matchup, take the over. That could be the highest scoring game in the tournament if those two teams are shooting well that day.
That's going to be interesting. And as far as like local teams, St. Bonaventure also made the tournament. So Central New York, New York State has 3 good teams in that tournament. One thing I did want to bring up is, of all the talk we've had about Joe Girard this season, I think he can make a statement in this tournament if he plays extremely well. All the talk about Kadari should start over him, that can get erased if he comes out and has a pretty good shooting performance, either against San Diego State or in the second round or even beyond. So if he has a good tournament, I think that bodes well for Syracuse. It's going to be his first tournament because obviously he was a freshman last year and he missed. We didn't have a tournament because of COVID, but
I think he's important, Mike, because, one of the old adages about winning in the tournament, great guard play. You need 3-point shooters. And if Joe can get open, and let's face it, when San Diego State, who's only got a limited amount of time to watch film and go back and study this team, you got to prioritize some things. If anything, Joe hasn't really stuck out on the radar that much lately. I mean, they're going to know his numbers. They're going to know what kind of player he is. They're not going to come in and be like, hey, who's that kid out there running around doing his thing? But
yeah,
he doesn't pop lately. Like you're gonna cater your defense to Buddy if you're San Diego State, right up top. So that's going to leave some opportunities for Joe. We know that Jim's going to start him and be loyal to him and give him an opportunity here. So that's the thing with the tournament, right? You get in, it's a blank slate. No matter what happened up to this point, you leave it behind, and everybody's got a second opportunity here to prove what they can do. And guard play is essential. But I think that goes the other way too, in that he's got to lead the team. If it's Kadari out there at point, can't turn the ball over, can't get caught up in the moment, that's half the battle. Who gets caught up in the bright lights of being in the NCAA tournament? Mike, you said it. So Buddy Boeheim's got a little experience, but didn't play well against Baylor 2 years ago. Marek Dolezaj, same thing. I think he had 5 points and a couple rebounds in that game. He got 4 fouls against Baylor, didn't play well. Joe has not played in the tournament. Obviously, Kadari has not played in the tournament. Quincy Guerrier has not played in the tournament. Go through the list. There's not a lot of players on this roster that have played in the NCAA tournament. They got a little bit of a taste of it with the ACC tournament last year and this year, but it's a whole new ball of wax. But I think that whole thing about everybody in the same place is it's such a game changer, right? Travel is not a factor. It's just show up and ball, right? And that's what Syracuse has to do against San Diego State. You brought up Bonaventure, by the way. A shout out to our colleague Donna DeToto, the St. Bonaventure alum. She's excited to see the Bonnies back in the tournament and better than ever.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really fun tournament to watch. I mean, championship week with all these conference championships this week, like it was probably the best week of basketball we've seen this year. And I think the tournament's just going to live up to that times 10. And I'm looking forward to it.
So much more to come from us throughout the week on this matchup, on the tournament, on so much happening. So please stay tuned to syracuse.com and our Twitter feeds and social media throughout the week. We're going to give you all the coverage you need before this game tips off on Friday between Syracuse and San Diego State. The Orange, an 11 seed, they're in the tournament. Don't even have to go through the first 4. First, they will play San Diego State, the 6th seed, on Friday. Thanks to our friends at Krause Health for presenting Syracuse basketball postgame throughout the season and this show tonight. Mike and I will be with you after Syracuse plays San Diego State. We're not sure what time that game is as we speak, but certainly we'll learn that soon enough. And as soon as it's over, we'll have another show for you, and we'll just keep on going. As long as Syracuse keeps playing, we'll pop on here and do some postgame shows for you. If you do miss it, we put it up on our YouTube page. You can find it on the Syracuse basketball Twitter account and other places, including embedded in my recap on syracuse.com. And guys, gals, everybody out there, enjoy filling out your brackets throughout the week. Hit us on Twitter if you need some tips. It's madness time. Let's go. Giddy up, Mike. I'm excited.
Let's go, man. Let's go. It's March Madness.